Coming up on Network Africa, flooding continues in Sierra Leone's capital 3 weeks after a devastating mudslide. The flood disaster victims in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, appeal for relief from both government and other donors. And later, a Senegal dance school founded by the mother of African dance threatened with closure. Hello everyone, I am BC Adebayo. It's been 3 weeks since the devastating mudslide that claimed the lives of hundreds of people in the outskirts of Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown. The aftermath of the disaster is still evident, but the rain has not relented, a situation that continues to cause damage. Houses are submerged as rain continues to drop on the West African country. Meanwhile, the government has set up temporary camps to house thousands of people left homeless after a mudslide in Redden Town on August the 14th. Over 400 people died in what has been described as one of Africa's worst disasters in recent years.
This is the old school complex camp where those who survived the mudslide in Sierra Leone are sheltered. The survivors are beginning to come to terms with the situation. Many of them have lost their loved ones and property. The government wants to put an end to unregulated buildings, deforestation and relocate people from the overcrowded capital of Freetown, often described as disaster-prone areas like Regent.
We have housed over 50 households, and we continue to make sure that we provide them with all the sanitation, the sanitary things they wanted there. There is water. We also have a police post there for security. And there is also a family support unit from the Sierra Leone police, just in case there will emerge any child protection issues. And we continue also to engage them in providing psychosocial support, because for us, we are doing a relocation with a human face.
We thank God because we are here. We have been unhappy since this disaster happened, but the government has done well for us. We now have a good place to sleep, food to eat, and clothes to wear.
Natural and human factors have made Sierra Leone's capital vulnerable to landslide. These vulnerabilities are mirrored in villages and cities across West and Central Africa.
Away from Sierra Leone to Nigeria, where flood disaster victims in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, are trying to pick up the pieces of their lives, but are also appealing for relief from both government and other donors. Some of the victims who spoke to Channels Television claimed they've been rendered homeless and penniless as a result of a 5-day-long flood. And the Minister of State for Environment, Mr. Ibrahim Jibril, is asking owners of illegal structures to cooperate with the Benue state government's plans to remove structures built on water channels in order to prevent further flood disaster in the state. Mr. Jibril made this appeal while inspecting affected areas in the Makurdi floods that lasted for 5 days, forcing over 600 families, including 900 pregnant women, to IDP camps. It was in the company of the Floods Relief Committee Chairman, Mr. Benson Abunu. Now let's go back to a lead story that's coming from Sierra Leone, and joining us to talk more about the disaster in Sierra Leone is a journalist, Alpha Kamara. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon.
Now, can you give us an understanding of the situation in Sierra Leone at this time?
Yeah, well, Sierra Leone over the weekend also suffered from another flooding disaster, and the Office of National Security just confirmed that 4,500 have been displaced also regarding this new disaster, and also 2 lives of kids between 6 and 7 were also lost. So the government is also trying to relocate these people who have been affected over this weekend, because throughout Saturday and Sunday, torrential rains also hit other parts of the capital, including Congo Town, Congo Cross, and other parts of the western part of Freetown. So yes, it was serious, and 4,500 people have been relocated, and 2 children lost their lives in a disaster. The government spokesperson told me that they are trying to build makeshift structures to see how they can relocate these people and see that they enforce some other aspects of the response. But also, there is now leaflets going out to know people, for them to know what and what to do when it's flooding, and also for them to try to take care of themselves and their families. So yes, it's affected Sierra Leone again, this Freetown again, over the weekend.
And you just mentioned now that the torrential rains have continued, and we've seen the flood continue over the past 3 weeks. Can you give us a bigger picture of how severe it is?
Well, it's serious. The first one that's happened on the 14th of August, I'm sure that one, most of the people all over the world are familiar with it. The number of deaths confirmed to almost 600, and people that are still not been seen, almost around 600, and over 10,000 people have been displaced and then relocated. But since that time, on the 14th of August, rains keeps coming in all the time, and like this is the recent one over the weekend, and the forecast is saying Freetown should expect more rain in the coming weeks. So that's a fair. And now the government has divided the response into thematics. For example, mobilization. They are going to pass information to the people on what to do. They have the water and sanitation and hygiene component. They are looking at how to prevent other diseases like cholera and diarrhea. And you have other people who are responsible for the resettlement of people, like the military people and the engineers. They are building makeshift structures. And so a lot of things are being done. But like I told you earlier, the Freetown is expecting more rain in the weather forecast, and the government is now passing information for people to know what to do when it rains. But we are expecting more rains, and of course, September also is not a month of rains in Sierra Leone, so definitely there will be more rains, and things are unfolding, and more mining disasters have been experienced. The streets have been overflooded, or were overflooded over weekends, traffic cut off, and like I told you, 2 children lost their lives, added to the others that happened on the 14th of August.
Now, Alpha, what lies ahead for the victims of this disaster, especially in the coming days?
Well, it's a very deep or big question, because right now a lot of things are happening. The structures they are building for the people are makeshift structures, which means they are just temporary, and the government will get to relocate them permanently to see where they can house them. Mind you, donations, funds, and equipment have been coming in from regional leaders and other international partners. So the government will open an account and deposit stuff in the account. So what they're doing now is to make makeshift structures, because it's still raining. Even some of the work has been also affected by the continuous rains. But after the rainy season, when it's dry, that's about maybe in November, December, the government is thinking of having permanent structures for these people in other parts of the capital and other parts of the country, so that they will be settled permanently. But in the meantime, they are just in makeshift structures, and more donations are coming in terms of food, in terms of shelter. Some people give clothing and stuff for them to just settle in the meantime and see what happens. But definitely, looking at what has happened with other disasters in Sierra Leone, like the war, the Ebola outbreak, and this one added, I think there is more needed to be done for the survivors and the victims of some of the families whom people have lost in this flood disaster.
It's from Sierra Leone, Alpha Kamara. Thanks for speaking with us on Network Africa.